What would you do if the person you trusted most betrayed you in the worst way imaginable? For Ava Morales, a devoted military wife and mother, this wasn't a hypothetical question. It was her reality. Living in a small Texas town near Fort Hood, Ava had always stood strong for her family, weathering the storms of military life. But one day, she noticed something off. Her 12-year-old daughter, Lily, began acting strangely, and Ava's instincts told her something was terribly wrong. What she discovered next would shatter her world and leave her questioning everything she thought she knew about the man she called her husband. What could drive a father to cross an unthinkable line? And how does a mother begin to pick up the pieces? Ava Morales had spent nearly 2 decades as a military wife, moving from base to base, raising her 2 children, and holding her family together through countless deployments. Her husband, Ryder, was a respected Army commander, a man admired for his bravery and leadership. But behind closed doors, the strain of military life was taking its toll. Frequent moves left their 12-year-old daughter, Lily, struggling to fit in, while their 15-year-old son, Cameron, shouldered responsibilities far beyond his years. Ava had always been the glue that held them all together, but even she couldn't have prepared for what was coming. It started with small changes in Lily's behavior, quiet withdrawal, unexplained mood swings, and a distance that Ava couldn't quite understand. At first, she chalked it up to the challenges of adolescence, but then she found something that made her blood run cold. A series of messages, hidden interactions, and a truth so dark it threatened to destroy everything she had built. How could the man she loved, the father of her children, be capable of such a betrayal? And how could she protect her family from the fallout? For Ava Morales, life as a military wife was a constant balancing act. With Ryder often deployed, she was the one who kept the household running, packing up their lives every few years, enrolling the kids in new schools, and making sure they felt at home wherever they landed. It wasn't easy, but Ava had always been resilient. She took pride in her ability to adapt, to be the steady force her family could rely on. But the challenges were real. The frequent moves left Lily, their 12-year-old daughter, feeling like an outsider. She struggled to make friends, often retreating into herself. Cameron, their 15-year-old son, had grown up fast, stepping into a protective role for his younger sister. Ava admired his maturity but worried about the weight he carried. And then there was Ryder. When he was home, he was distant, consumed by the stress of his job. Ava tried to bridge the gap, but it felt like they were drifting further apart. Ryder Flynn was a man of discipline and duty. As an Army commander, he was respected by his peers and admired for his leadership. But the pressures of his job were relentless. The constant deployments, the weight of responsibility, and the toll it took on his family were things he rarely spoke about. When he was home, he tried to reconnect with Ava and the kids, but the strain was evident. Ava noticed the changes in him, the shorter temper, the emotional distance, the way he seemed to retreat into himself. She tried to be understanding, reminding herself of the sacrifices he made for their country. But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Little did she know the cracks in their family were about to break wide open. It started small. Lily, once a bright and curious child, began to withdraw. She spent more time alone in her room, her grades slipped, and she seemed increasingly anxious. Ava tried to talk to her, but Lily would shut down, insisting everything was fine. At first, Ava thought it was just the challenges of growing up in a military family. But then, she noticed something else. Lily's discomfort around Ryder. Whenever he was home, Lily seemed tense, avoiding eye contact and retreating to her room at the first opportunity. Ava's instincts told her something was wrong, but she couldn't put her finger on it. Then came the messages. One evening, while helping Lily with her homework, Ava accidentally saw a notification on her daughter's phone. It was from Ryder, and the tone of the message made her stomach drop. What was her husband saying to their 12-year-old daughter? And why did it feel so wrong? Ava's mind raced as she tried to make sense of what she'd seen. She told herself she was overreacting, that she was reading too much into it. But the unease wouldn't go away. Over the next few days, she began to notice more. Whispered conversations between Ryder and Lily, secretive glances, and a tension in the air that made her skin crawl. One night, while Ryder was out, Ava made a decision. She couldn't ignore her instincts any longer. She needed to know the truth, no matter how painful it might be. What she discovered next would change her family forever. But the question remained. How could she protect her children from the fallout of a betrayal this devastating? Ava couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The messages she'd seen on Lily's phone played over and over in her mind. She tried to convince herself it was nothing, but her instincts told her otherwise. One evening, after the kids had gone to bed, Ava made a decision. She needed to know the truth. Quietly, she began to piece together the clues. She checked Lily's phone again, this time more thoroughly. The messages from Ryder were cryptic, but their tone was unsettling. Words that should have been innocent felt loaded with meaning. Ava's heart raced as she realized the extent of the communication. How long had this been going on, and why had she not seen it sooner? The next day, Ava confronted Lily. She tried to be gentle, but the fear in her daughter's eyes told her everything she needed to know. Lily broke down, revealing fragments of the truth, words and actions that no child should ever have to endure. Ava's world began to crumble as the reality of the situation sank in. Ava knew she had to confront Ryder. She waited until the kids were out of the house, her mind racing with questions and anger. When Ryder walked through the door, Ava was ready. "We need to talk," she said, her voice trembling. Ryder's expression shifted from confusion to concern as Ava laid out what she'd discovered. At first, he denied it, his voice rising in defense. But as Ava pressed him, his facade began to crack. "How could you?" Ava demanded, tears streaming down her face. "She's your daughter." Ryder's silence was deafening. In that moment, Ava realized the man she had loved and trusted was capable of something she could never have imagined. The betrayal cut deeper than anything she had ever experienced. Ava knew what she had to do next. She called the authorities, her hands shaking as she dialed the number. Within hours, Ryder was taken into custody, his career and reputation in ruins. The news spread quickly through their tight-knit military community, leaving friends and neighbors in shock. For Ava, the days that followed were a blur. She focused on protecting Lily and Cameron, shielding them from the worst of the fallout. But the emotional toll was immense. How could she explain to her children that their father had betrayed them in the worst possible way? And how could she begin to rebuild their lives from the wreckage? The news of Ryder's arrest sent shockwaves through their small Texas town. Friends and neighbors who had once admired the Flynn family now struggled to reconcile the man they knew with the crimes he had committed. Ava felt the weight of their judgment, the whispers and sideways glances that followed her wherever she went. Some offered support, but others pulled away, unsure of how to handle the scandal. Ava found herself increasingly isolated, her once strong support network crumbling under the weight of the truth. But through it all, she remained focused on one thing: protecting her children. In the quiet moments when the kids were asleep and the house was still, Ava allowed herself to feel the full weight of her emotions. Anger, grief, guilt. They all swirled together, threatening to overwhelm her. She replayed every moment, every decision, wondering if she could have done something differently. But amidst the pain, there was also a fierce determination. Ava knew she had to be strong for Lily and Cameron. She sought counseling for them, ensuring they had the support they needed to process the trauma. And slowly, she began to rebuild her own sense of identity, finding strength in the love she had for her children. As the legal proceedings against Ryder began, Ava found herself thrust into a world she never wanted to be part of. Court dates, testimonies, and the cold, clinical language of the justice system became her new reality. She attended every hearing, determined to ensure that Ryder faced the consequences of his actions. For Lily, the process was especially difficult. She was asked to recount her experiences, reliving the trauma in front of strangers. Ava sat by her side, holding her hand and offering silent support. It was a painful but necessary step toward justice. The trial dragged on, each day a reminder of the betrayal that had shattered their family. But through it all, Ava remained steadfast, her focus unwavering, protecting her children and ensuring they had a chance to heal. With the legal process underway, Ava turned her attention to healing. She enrolled Lily and Cameron in counseling, determined to give them the tools they needed to process their emotions. At first, both children were resistant, their trust in adults deeply shaken. But over time they began to open up, sharing their fears and frustrations in a safe space. Ava also sought counseling for herself. She knew she couldn't pour from an empty cup, and she needed to address her own pain if she was going to be there for her children. The sessions were difficult, forcing her to confront her anger, guilt, and grief. But they also gave her a sense of clarity and purpose. Slowly, the family began to rebuild. Small moments of laughter and connection became more frequent, a sign that healing was possible, even after such a devastating betrayal. As the months passed, the community's reaction began to shift. Some who had initially pulled away now reached out, offering support and understanding. Others remained distant, unsure of how to navigate the complexities of the situation. Ava found strength in the few who stood by her side. A close friend from the military community became her confidant, offering a listening ear and a shoulder to lean on. Another family, who had experienced their own struggles, reached out with words of encouragement. But not everyone was kind. Ava and her children faced judgment and whispers, reminders of the scandal that had upended their lives. Ava learned to tune out the noise, focusing instead on the people who truly mattered. She realized that not everyone would understand, and that was okay. Her priority was her family, and she would do whatever it took to protect them. As the dust began to settle, Ava turned her attention to the future. She knew their lives would never be the same, but she was determined to create a new normal, one built on love, trust, and resilience. She started by reconnecting with her own passions. Years of putting her family first had left little time for herself, but now she rediscovered the things that brought her joy. She took up painting, a hobby she had abandoned years ago, and found solace in the creative process. Ava also began to explore new opportunities. She took online courses, expanding her skills and opening doors to new career paths. It was a way to regain control of her life, to prove to herself and her children that they could thrive, even after the unimaginable. As Ava sat on the porch of their new home, she allowed herself a moment to reflect. The past year had been a whirlwind of pain, anger, and healing. She thought about the day she first noticed something was wrong with Lily, the moment she confronted Ryder, and the long, difficult road that followed. It hadn't been easy. There were days when the weight of it all felt unbearable, when she questioned whether they would ever find peace again. But through it all, Ava had held on to one truth: her love for her children. that love had been her anchor, the force that kept her moving forward even when everything else seemed to fall apart. Lily and Cameron had been her motivation every step of the way. Seeing them grow stronger, more resilient, had given Ava the strength to keep going. Lily, once withdrawn and fearful, was now finding her voice again. She had started a journal, pouring her thoughts and feelings onto the page, and had even joined a school club where she was making new friends. Cameron, ever the protector, had taken on a leadership role at school, mentoring younger students and channeling his pain into something positive. Ava couldn't have been prouder of the people her children were becoming. They had faced unimaginable challenges, but they had come out stronger on the other side. Ava's story is a reminder that even in the darkest moments, there is light. It's a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the power of love to overcome even the most unimaginable challenges. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe for more powerful narratives. Let's continue the conversation in the comments. What lessons can we take from Ava's strength? How can we support those around us who may be facing their own struggles? Your voice matters, and together we can create a community of understanding and hope.